Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a video that I just feel is important. I feel like we need to talk about this. The most common thing I see in my comments on Twitter, wherever it may be, is just that modern gaming sucks. Modern gaming is dead. We could be doing so much better, but it blows right now. I'm gonna go play some old stuff and I'll catch you later. And I'm not buying any game day one. And I think where we're at right now, that's a fair take to have. A lot of modern games have underdelivered when they should have completely blown us away. And it's been a challenge, right? There have been companies that I've covered extensively on this channel that have never missed for me. And just, when I see their name on the box, I'm like, here we go. This is going to be peak. And when the game arrives and I do my review, I'm like, wow, this is not up to the quality standards I expect. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but with us already knowing where we're at in a lot of ways, I wanted to talk about maintaining that passion for gaming, because when I see people losing their love for gaming, obviously I'm not going to be weird and force it, but when I see it as someone who adores gaming so much and how much it's transformed my life, the way I think, the beliefs I have, etc., it's such a powerful art. It makes me sad when I see people who hate gaming or don't get gaming, for example. And I just thought this video was really important to make. It just kind of spoke to my heart a bit. So I'm just going to ramble a bit, if you don't mind. I don't even have notes here next to me. I'm just going to talk off the dome about things that help me maintain my passion for gaming. I think the first step is just getting offline. I used to use Twitter a lot. I don't anymore. I used to be on social media a lot. I just like to use my YouTube channel as the place I talk with all of you and connect with all of you. For me, I feel like social media has just gotten increasingly more toxic, and the conversation around games oftentimes sucks. And even if I lose on views, even if you just stop watching me, I think that's for the greater good. I think a lot of times my enjoyment comes from disconnecting from what other people are telling me how to feel and just going and enjoying my thing on my own. That's kind of where I started with this video, because I was thinking a bit about Avowed and how, for me as a reviewer, I try to cover every major release that I can, and sometimes the smaller AA stuff and the indie stuff. But when it came to Avowed, we're at a point now in the industry where a game getting an 80 open critic, being called, in my case, good, just not as great as prior super RPGs from Obsidian, is a laughing stock to a lot of people. And I think you can feel that way, and a lot of gamers internalize that and go I have to be defensive of the thing I love now. And I think a lot of those emotions don't come out if you just back up for a little bit, take a breath, enjoy your thing, and arrive with a fresher head. That's one way that, as someone who is literally sometimes at the epicenter of conversations, I stay passionate about games. It's just continuing to do it. Yeah, it's my job, but doing it for me. That's how this whole thing started. I grew up just adoring video games, and I know if I lose touch of that, then what makes all of this go around? If I don't like games, if I don't like firing up my Xbox or my PlayStation or my Switch or my PC, if it's agonizing for me, I can't imagine a world like that. But certainly if you do enough of something and you engage with the parts of it that just are sometimes a tough pill to swallow. I think the conversation that we're having right now about modern gaming is important and should be heard. But do you need to consume it every day? No, probably not. Probably not. So yeah, just the occasional disconnect is good. Dare I say go outside and touch grass, but who the hell wants to do that anyway? Go out and watch a movie or read a book or something, and you'll come back in games. So just something in your brain flips, maybe a dopamine cycle breaks. I don't know, but you just come back and I'm this is hitting different all of a sudden. Just switching up the hobbies a little bit helps me a bit too. The other thing that I got to say is really big for me is what I do on Retro Rebound. When I started that channel, just because, again, this is my job, I need to make it clear. I did not start that as a, let me make some money. How can I increase my income? It was literally just I remember talking to Lockmore and Jimmy Champagne. I remember talking to them both because they helped me launch that channel, and going I just want something that I can talk about old games on, because I love collecting games, as you can see behind me, and I want a place I can talk about them. Now, the question people kind of ask sometimes is well, why not just talk about it here? The reality is that you have different audiences for different things. So for me, I've tried those things many a times. You'll go ahead and look at the library of content we have here, Humanity's Worst Games, RPG Time Machine, just random reviews we do. And some of them hit, some of them most of the time did not. And that's okay, because now we have a channel that's pushing on 250,000 subscribers that does that sort of thing. And we get to talk about everything from Final Fantasy 15 to Spider-Man 3. And it's amazing. But point being is that sort of balance has been huge for me. it's also been sobering because right now I'm seeing a lot of the industry kind of approach games with rose-tinted glasses, as in today's games cannot stack up to what we once got. And in many ways, again, as someone who is playing these old games pretty regularly, this is very true. There was a secret sauce to old games back then. And I think the push toward fidelity and away from like art style has hurt a lot of what those older games could do. And it feels like a bit of a mixed bag. But also, I think these older games are just important to kind of reconnect with your tastes. And sometimes these older games will shake you awake a little bit because you'll be like, oh, I know this thing is perfect. And when you play it, you learn a bit more about your tastes and the things that maybe weren't so great about it that you forgot about. For me, though, playing older games, like I always have one in the cycle. Like for me, I was just in a review gauntlet, if you will. I was doing a little bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance. I was doing a little bit of Avowed. Those experiences combined for like 80 hours. I did a South of Midnight preview and so on, plus Retro Rebound coverage, like easily over 100 hours of gaming in like a couple of weeks, right? And so you got to kind of balance that out. And so the Retro Rebound side of things really has helped me because it's just going back to the thing like KOTOR. KOTOR is like a warm blanket for me. Like find your warm blanket game that you can just wrap yourself up in and just be like, I know I'm going to love this thing. It's not always about, like I just depicted earlier, challenging yourself. Sometimes it's just like, give yourself something you want. You don't always got to make it a risk reward play. Like go to something you do like. I think the only problem is sometimes like I have friends who just love like particular things. And I'm like, if you just open your taste a little bit, and hey, guilty as charged. That's what I'm learning. Again, going back to like your old reliables. For me, it was always like Bethesda, BioWare, Obsidian. And I will still always be checking their games out as long as those companies are in business because of just how long I've spent covering them and just how much of a fan I've been of them and continue to be of them in certain ways. But what I've really found myself looking at is indies and trying genres that maybe I left behind for a long time. Like, for example, I'm a huge Danganronpa fan. This is not really talking indie per se, but I love Danganronpa, right? But there's a lot of visual novels I left unexplored. So like I tried out, this is kind of a visual novel experience, Mouthwashing. That was great. I bought 1,000 Times Resist. That was awesome game. And I just wouldn't have tried these things if I didn't go down this rabbit hole of like this genre that I explored in like my college years and then kind of just left behind. I tried Slay the Princess. That one didn't vibe with me too much. I might give it a second chance later on, but it led me down this rabbit hole that I think we can easily go down. The benefit of today's video game landscape, I think, is that while it's a little bit of a mixed bag, you have so many points of entry that are cheaper. So you can jump into a Game Pass, a Humble Bundle, a PS Plus. Like PS Plus catalog has classics, so you can get your old games there as well as your modern ones. They're doing more day one stuff there. Like there's just so many different places that you can grab a game from and try it out. And for me, that has been the challenge, is trying to just break out of my mold that I've set for myself. Like I am the RPG guy. I love RPGs. But really what I'm learning here in my young adulthood is like JRPGs have been the constant for me. You know, I have always loved JRPGs, and that has not wavered in my young adulthood. In fact, it's only gotten stronger because JRPGs are more thematically driven, I feel. The way that, you know, a metaphor is built, and obviously metaphor is a commentary on many things from politics to fantasy being real and so on and so forth. And because of that, it's a work of art. The medium has evolved, and so sticking with Avowed a little bit, that's a game I called good, not great. But if you read the comment section or any tweets attached to that review, it's like I called it just the worst thing ever. The medium has evolved in such a way that good is not good enough anymore. And it's a little strange for me because I feel like the 7 out of 10 games inform me so much on my taste, but I don't try to apply that school of thought to like people who just want to fire up their Xbox or their PlayStation and play something. Like, I don't think they're looking at it that way. Maybe they are, but that's a school of thought I take with it because I think a lot of my job is based around knowing my taste very well and knowing what parts of games click very well and don't, so I know when my biases are kicking in or not, versus someone who just wants to like turn on their Xbox and be like, what should I play, bro? But we're in such an interesting era where like a 7 out of 10, or in the case of Avowed, like this 80 open critic score game is just kind of getting mocked online for just being like a decent game. And I feel like these types of releases are important because it's very informative of like taste, but also like the interesting thing about like a risky 7 out of 10, I don't think Avowed is risky, by the way, but generally speaking, a risky 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 game is it might be like the best damn thing you play because it does end up scratching particular itches and taking risks that other games that are shooting for the moon and trying to be broadly appealing just never will do. And so I just can't stand certain games that kind of lie in the middle and try to appeal to everyone. I think that is what's lost in modern gaming. Back then, when gaming wasn't such like a high budget, high risk, high reward kind of thing, what you'd get are developers saying like, screw it, let's go make this. Like, let's take the RE engine and make a samurai game with it. And then all of a sudden you get Onimusha. Like, that thing just kind of happened. And obviously it cost money and there was still some sort of assessment of the risk there, but definitely it wasn't like today's craterings where we talked about WB Games where they're $400 million in the hole between Wonder Woman, Multiverses, and Suicide Squad. Like, it's a whole different ball game. But the other thing to get into is that I think what has hurt us as gamers most is the realization of this. During that kind of stretch of watching gaming grow, particularly leading into COVID, you know, we watched gaming evolve before our very eyes from this little hobby that, hell, many of us got teased for even engaging in, to now this global phenomenon that's like the #1 revenue driver in the entertainment industry, right? Because it's making so much money, what's happening is it's becoming way more corporate. You want to invest more because it's time to get big bucks. There's more money in gaming than ever before. And the problem ends up being for a lot of companies, greed. Like, you can step in and make a tiny little game and make a lot of money off of it. But the question is, how much is enough? And I think for a lot of companies, it's never enough. And that is the problem that they get into, which I think some people are seeing through now. They see the corporate nature of video games, which is why it goes back to kind of square one, which is I do think sometimes reconnecting with that, if you will, untainted era of gaming for you is really important. But it's also equally important to just broaden those horizons and try some new things. You know, that is the biggest thing that I've been trying to do this year is like, yeah, I know I'm loving Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Of course, right now, front runner for game of the year for me personally. But you know what? Like, why don't I try out Warriors Abyss? Like, this is a roguelike game, but it's also a Muso style game. This is different. This is normally like the little $20 title. I'm like, I'll get to it one day and never do. But why not push myself with the same level of urgency to try something a little bit different out compared to what I know I'll love, especially for me as someone who like does this for a living. The other way my tastes have evolved is I'm trying to embrace more fun games. I view the gaming medium as an art form. So something like what Atlas produced with Metaphor is like a story that just shakes up my worldview. And I learned so much about the artist creating it and how they interpret what's happening in our world. Like, that stuff is powerful. But for me, what I'm trying to embrace in this last couple of months leading into this new year was sort of a fun factor. So my most anticipated game in February was actually Yakuza Pirate Like a Dragon, or what was it? Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. I always screw up the name, but this game just looks like fun. It looks like a Yakuza game meets Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And especially in a time where like Ubisoft's missing a little bit, I'm embracing the developers who are delivering to me the experiences that I'm looking for. It used to be, maybe it's just the way I grew up, you know, like I'm just all about the brands, bro. But, you know, when I saw certain names on boxes, it just used to signal something to be kind of excited for or look into. But those days are gone. Like, now's a good time to just sort of explore indie games. Like, I just saw this one game that was in development for like 17 years called like Caves of Cud, and it's this crazy roguelike RPG text-based adventure. It is ridiculous the amount of things you can do in this game, and it's getting amazing reviews. It just released in 1.0 at the tail end of last year, if I remember correctly, and I've just been messing around with it a little bit. This is a game that I never would have come to if not for the current state of modern gaming, but I'm trying to embrace that. Like, it's a whole new era. Games are big enough now where it's not about like your Ubisofts and your 2Ks and the ones that kind of made the industry this formidable force. It's about now the new players stepping in who are doing crazy new exciting things like we always wanted. I look at Supergiant Games. You know, I respect so much that Supergiant Games' first ever sequel was Hades 2. That's unheard of. Every game is looking to be a franchise, a series nowadays. And I love that you have a company who for a long time just gave you things like Transistor, which was my game of the year in 2014. They'll give you things like Pyre, which was like a sports game, but also had RPG elements. Like, they have so many crazy ideas over there at Supergiant. So I've been trying to embrace that side of the industry way more. I definitely was guilty of getting caught up in kind of the AAA monster, if you will, because obviously a lot of my job does circulate around it. But as time has gone on, I'm like, no, you know what? Like, I'm really going to make more time for the indie experience. And that has been an important part of maintaining my passion. Like, of course, again, it's my job, but I love this industry because I continue to find new experiences in ways that I never expected. And I think right now, looking at AAA, there are companies who I think can deliver fun little concepts. Like From Software has our trust. If I was to use a great example, From Software has a lot of people's trust. They continue to get bigger and evolve. And honestly, the only wrong thing they're doing, which you can really blame PlayStation for, is no Bloodborne remaster. We got a Days Gone remaster, but no Bloodborne remaster. But like FromSoft is about to kind of flip multiplayer on its head, giving us a Souls-like experience in Night Rain, but with co-op with our friends, which is something a lot of us kind of wanted to just see how it went. And so that's like the fun, crazy, experimental AAA nonsense that I feel like I can get behind right now. It feels like it's admittedly more easier than ever before to kind of just see from a mile out if something is going to be really good or a little messy. Another way I became very passionate about games, and it kind of compounded a bit where it didn't help long term because then I started to feel guilty, is obviously collecting. I love collecting video games. It is one of my favorite hobbies, but I used to like just grab everything. You know, I used to be like, oh, this is $5, this is $6. You know, let's just grab this all, right? Like, why not? And I'd have them on the shelves. I'd be like, oh, I can't wait to play that one day. And then you never do. But I will say getting into game collecting did elevate my passion for the medium. And if you're short on space like I was, definitely like these rotating media shelves are huge. I have a whole video about collecting in 2025 if you want like actual recommendations down to a science on like what I do. But these media shelves are great because you can store things on like 4 sides. And so if you're looking to even collect just a little bit, you can just set this up in the corner of a room, rotate it to whatever system you're looking for. They're wonderful. But that really did unlock my passion too, where it was just like, gaming was everywhere. And honestly, handheld gaming, the return of handheld gaming was another one, like playing games how I remembered loving to play games and being able to take console experiences on the go. Like, I love the Vita. So to take this true like Steam Deck console experience, or in this case, handheld PC, but you get my point, that the games that are console experiences on the go, uncompromised, is insane to me. Like, we dreamt about these days. So it's just really cool to see the ways it's evolved. But again, with it getting more corporate, is you see as many misses as you do hits. And I think there is a little bit of truth, just a little bit, in the idea of like, it does depend where you're looking. Like, if I'm looking at like Xbox and how dramatically they're changing, and PlayStation going to PC, and the way like Activision was considering selling to at one point like Meta or Amazon, like this sort of like, you know, the collapse of Ubisoft and the conversation around games, like it's easy to look at gaming and go, it's so dire right now. But then I look at other things. I look at how indie is thriving. I look at Game Pass and the accessibility that it provides. Like, as a kid who had no money, I would have killed for Game Pass to be able to just to sign on and be like, I have a library of hundreds of games just right there. PS Plus, same thing. Like, there are great things beyond just what's happening in AAA. So I just want to talk about the things that really do light my fire. Overall, gaming always does. The conversation, being part of it, is great. I love the communities I've built here on this channel and on Retro Rebound, you know, just really sweet people who just want to talk games. And so, yeah, I just wanted to touch base with things that, you know, light my fire a bit. Is gaming dead? No. Is it changing dramatically? Absolutely. But not all of it's for the better, but there's still a lot of great places to go to get amazing experiences. And so hopefully you take something out of this video. Maybe you don't. You know, this video is not designed to like change you per se, but maybe you just hear something in a man's ramblings that you go like, oh, you know what? I might give that a shot. And of course, there's maybe something I forgot to mention in all of this that maybe you want to share with everyone down below. So I'm looking forward to reading the thoughts down below. Please fire away. Other than that, I'll catch all of you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. Love you all. Peace.